the YN mindset is ruining society. People, what up? What's good? We got a video from Blackie Speaks. The YN mindset is ruining society. You know what I'm saying? The idea that, you know, you gotta have as a young black dude, you gotta have a shiesty mask on. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be posted up on the block. You know, he's speaking on that. So, you know, I want to hear him out, man. I grew up. I've spent all my life on the west side of Chicago. I don't consider myself hood. I never gangbang, none of that. But I was always around that. Fortunately, man, I was able to stay away from that. And I do know how damaging, you know what I'm saying, that type of lifestyle is. But I also understand that it's bigger than trying to look cool or trying to like get girls or whatever. Like it's a lot of reasons for this type of behavior. So I wonder how deep he's gonna dive in. And of course, man, y'all know we gonna be giving our 2 cents, so let's get it.
Back on social media, I'm sure a lot of people have heard the term YN, not to be confused with Young Ninja. YN stands for Young Nigga, which is a slang popularized by rap culture. The term is supposed to represent young black men, mostly teens, and is heavily associated with the image of a black face, often in connection with erratic behavior, which 99% of the time involves hurting people, whether that be stealing, robbing, or just being belligerent.
At least I feel like that's what it used to mean, and I feel like the term is kind of damaging because, you know, it's not just limited to you know what I'm saying, the reckless black teenager is literally every black dude is a YN now. You know, every young black dude is a YN. I don't know if I still count, man. I got dreads, a wife beater on. I'm 23, so I'm probably out of the age range. You know what I'm saying? But like, you know, even the, you know, the well-spoken black kid that, you know, goes to school and minds his business, even because of his appearance, he's a YN too. So, you know, it's tough, man. So it's actually unfortunate.
However, this term is not defined by skin color. It's more a mindset that the new generation of young people are taking on. We're talking about children as young as 10 being influenced by the behaviors that come with this term. And they're mainly being influenced by it through different forms of media, social media being the main one. But we also have music, specifically rappers, promoting this way of showing up in the world. A lot of the violent behavior from young people being publicized on social media right now can be connected to this mindset as well. And in this video, I want to talk about why the YN mindset is slowly ruining society. Rapper King Von, who died back in 2020, might be the poster boy for this conversation, because Von was not only the physical representation of what the YN term is associated with, which is a black face, but King Von was also big on being a menace to society. That's what Von not only spoke about in his music, but he took pride in being the way he was. And then he got himself into an altercation in November 2020 and got himself killed. Now Von is just one example out of many, but he was a famous rapper, so he managed to at the very least reap the rewards from operating this way. Through the means of making a bunch of money from his music, he gained a lot of notoriety, fame, and recognition during his short-lived career. And although Von isn't here anymore, his music continues to influence kids all over the world in a negative way.
You say you want to come ride with us?
Yeah.
What you gonna do though, like, if you get caught?
I ain't snitch. I went to juvie. I actually went to juvie because I teacher with scissors. And you can ask Larry. I chased my teacher with scissors.
Yeah.
It's sad, man. And you know what? We can do a better job of. We can do a better job of cause you know nowadays, man, don't nobody care nothing about a black doctor, a black engineer, black lawyer. You know what I'm saying? So we can do a better job of promoting, you know, a non-destructive lifestyle for black kids. You know what I'm saying? To look up to, instead of just, you know, promoting rappers, you know, like King Von, you know, insert whatever gangster rapper you want, you know what I'm saying, and slowly but surely change the culture. Will we? Probably not. So yeah.
I chased my teacher with scissors and I stabbed her, and then said, "Oh, you're going to juvie for 3 months."
Yeah, Kings, you gotta chill though, but that's not cool.
Huh?
It's not cool to be bad.
It is cool. You know why?
Why?
Because I'm just trying to be like my idol,
Who your idol?
King Von.
What the?
Now that clip that I just played you,
Right.
I thought was some kind of
Sad.
like skit when I, first came across it, but it's actually real. Here we have a young black boy around the age of 10 or 12 being asked about riding around with grown men on a robbery spree. He's bragging about having been to juvie, how he hurt his teacher, and that King Von influenced him to be this way. And by the way, the title of this YouTube short, which is over 5 million views, is Crazy YN Chased His Teachers with Scissors. Now the question I had when I seen this video was, why is this adult male in the car making these suggestions to this kid? You know, that's a whole nother issue, right? But this is something we don't talk about often enough. It's not just thousands. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of young people, might be in the millions at this point, adopting a similar way of thinking, being, and moving. And sadly, most of them are young black teens. But then again, like we stated, it's not a race thing, but more of a cultural thing. We're gonna dive into that later. And for the more mature crowd watching this video, right, who may not be on social media or even have, let's say, young nephews, nieces, or children growing up in this, you know, new age of social media, a lot of you guys might actually be confused and completely in the dark about this YN mindset that I'm talking about. Maybe this is the first time you're hearing about this. If that's the case and you enjoy this conversation so far, drop a like on this video, right? For others, especially all the young,
do that real quick, man. It's interesting. Y'all do that too on mine and his.
or people who watch this
Oh no, wait, hold on. All right, we back.
channel, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And then we have, you know, people like myself kind of in the middle where I'm connected to it in a lot of ways and I see what's happening, but obviously I'm old enough to have enough sense to know how dysfunctional it is for society in general. First, we got to get clear about one thing, which is the YN term is a term that propagates a negative stereotype of black boys. For most people who know about this term and what it means, when they think about it, what probably pops up in their mind visually is a young black teen with a ski mask, maybe accompanied with a Glock 45, robbing people and being a menace. And that's something I personally think is a problem, right? It shouldn't be like that, but obviously it is, and there's some reasons behind it.
But like I said, I feel like it's extended past that now. It's every young black male, you know, not just the dudes with the shiesty mask on. It's all of them are YNs, right? So it's tough, man. It's unfortunate.
I'm gonna get into that later on. Now, the term to me isn't actually the issue, as crazy as it sounds, because if it stopped at just being words, there wouldn't be anything to talk about. The biggest problem is the mindset behind it and the energy it carries. For anyone who's heard the term YN, you've also probably heard crash out. Crash out is more of a mainstream way of describing when someone completely loses control, acts off emotion, ego, or pain with no thought for the consequences that may follow. I think Duke Dennis, who's a popular streamer, he explained it perfectly.
Crashing out is making a decision in a split second that could throw your whole life away. That's what crashing out is. Crashing out is, I'm ready to die about it. I'm ready to go to jail about it right now. Whole time the situation is not even worth going to jail about or dying about.
And shout out to Duke Dennis for the very proper explanation. In other words, you lose all logic and reasoning and let your emotions guide you towards an action that completely messes up your whole life when it could have been avoided. And these two terms, YN and crashing out, they're very connected. One of them, crash out, describes a general way of behaving without taking the person into account. So crash out can be about just about anybody, right? It can be about someone who's 15 years old, or it can be about someone who's 85 years old. YN is, however, catered towards the younger generation. And like we stated, it's often associated with young black teens. Now the question is, what is considered YN behavior? Well, let's put it like this, right? Anything that's reckless, belligerent, and violent. So let me give a few examples, right? Smash and grabs are a prime example of this. Back in 2020, specifically around the time of the 2020 riots, we saw a spike in a very specific type of crime, and it was called smash and grabs. Smash and grabs, for anyone who doesn't know, is a term that describes a type of crime where a bunch of people run into a store, most times being a designer clothing store or a place where they have expensive jewelry, computers, etc. They break the windows, you know, they run inside, take a bunch of shit, and you know, they just dip, right? A lot of this was happening in the major cities in the US like New York, Los Angeles, etc. I think a lot that was happening can be connected to the things that were going on politically during that time, yes, but I think the pandemic and COVID-19 was a turning point for sure.
Well, I ain't got to say it. They still like take away monetization if you say it outright. That's funny.
I don't know about you, but I noticed how humans became way more, you know, disconnected from each other after 2020 overall, and the way we interacted with each other as humans, right? But also what people were willing to do to others as far as hurting their fellow human beings. So with that shift, I noticed, and maybe you noticed this as well, I noticed how a lot of crimes were becoming way more vicious. You started hearing more and more about old people getting beat up and robbed. Gang violence became way more intense in communities all over the world.
I don't know if it became more intense or more vicious. We just hear about it more now, right?
And kids started getting caught in the middle of it more often. People started having less and less concern for each other, and individualism, I would say, is at an all-time high right now, especially after 2020. But around 2020, this thing called smash and grabs became a common occurrence. Some of y'all might have seen a lot of those videos of a bunch of teens running inside a store, let's say a clothing or electronic store, stealing a bunch of clothes, laptops, and iPhones. And sometimes they arrive in, you know, big-ass groups, right? All ski masked up, looking like Pooh Shiesty.
Sunday, a group of thieves stole from the Nike store in East LA. We are blurring their faces here because they appear.
I wonder how Pooh, and I just said Pooh. cause I'm pretty sure Pooh Shiesty is in jail. So, but I wonder if he comes out, like, will he ever speak on, you know, being the face of degeneracy, bro, for black youth. Like, everybody got on the Pooh Shiesty mask now. They literally call ski mask Pooh Shiesty mask, right? I wonder how, you know, like what are his thoughts on that, man? If he ever speaks on that, we definitely gonna listen to that. Whether that's years down the line or soon, I'm very intrigued to hear what he got to say about that.
To be juveniles, and last week a flash mob robbery occurred at the Americana at Brand, one of developer Rick Caruso's properties. He says despite their sophisticated security systems and armed guards, it still happened.
And sometimes they arrive by themselves, like this man at this Apple store, and they, clean out the whole spot. Not only did he clean out the whole spot of all their iPhones, put all the phones in his boxers, but he did all that and literally walked past a police car. If that ain't talent, bravery, and confidence in one, I don't know what is. But all jokes aside, right? This is what people associate a YN with. And although the image that pops up in people's heads is a black male or teen rocking a Pooh Shiesty ski mask, let's focus on the behavior itself, because that's what we're talking about. The YN mindset is a way of behaving, operating, and seeing the world. You don't think the consequences of your actions will catch up to you. Like this clip of this white kid talking a bunch of trash to a police officer and getting manhandled.
Get off of your seat.
Okay,
Take
take
off
out
your
the
seat.
seat.
Yeah.
Let me get your ID.
You ain't gonna get shit.
Okay.
Take it off of your seat. Well, what you laughing for? I'm writing your shit. Take it off.
And we're gonna cut it right there because YouTube is very strict these days, okay? Let's just say that the end result was the young man begging for mercy on the ground, okay? Now, rap music has been a huge proponent of pushing the normalization of the YN mindset. And this is something I've spoken about on here for years in different contexts. We've seen countless young rappers crashing out for absolutely no reason, whether it's home invasions turned deadly in the TK case, or killing one of the most famous drill rappers at the time, Pop Smoke, when you're only 15 years old. That's a concoction of crash out and YN behavior. And you often see
and I think until, because we continue year after year, we continue to see, the rappers that promote this type of degeneracy always, either going to jail, getting killed, getting caught up in something. We continue to see that, but I think until, it's not gonna take, I think it's gonna take more than like fathers, like black fathers and black mentors and positive role models in the community I think it's gonna take more than that to like get rid of the YN mindset, as Blackie Speaks is calling. I think we have to, like, rap music has to become lame, right? In order for this to stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, if nobody looks up to the gangster rapper, nobody is emulating that type of behavior, right? So,
about this kind of thing, but I've yet to see an actual real conversation about what's created.
And I don't think that will ever happen. So, but I think that we can lessen the issue by, right, the fathers staying in the house, bro, having mentors, you know what I'm saying, having black people actually putting their resources together to bring, some sort of a positive thing to the community. You know what I'm saying? Like a community center, a community garden, starting up, like an after school program. Right. We still need that, but I don't think that's going to completely solve the issue, but I think it is somewhat of a solution.
This phenomenon and why it needs to be abolished. We're talking about young people in large amounts acting reckless, belligerent, hurting people in the process without any regard for how it's going to affect their lives and others. And it's also not that the older generation, let's say the 80s babies, weren't on demon time during the crack era, okay? Because they obviously were. Just ask your parents. It's just that we keep on seeing more recklessness and more innocent people getting caught in the middle of it. And a lot of this is being televised to an entire generation of young children through social media. And the number one, commonality that I've observed observed in this type of behavior is structure or lack thereof. Often when you see this type of behavior in society, either in your own backyard or in close proximity to you or the people you love, you'll notice how a lot of these young boys, right, specifically young boys, because young girls aren't out here like putting on ski masks and like robbing stores, right? Most times they're not. In 99% of the cases, they're not, right? You'll notice how a lot of these young boys come from fatherless households, and 9 times out of 10, they were most likely raised by a single mother. A lot of times we also see another thing, which is they either come from an impoverished background. If not that, at the very least, we're talking about a working class background. And here's the thing, what happens when a father is absent in a lot of cases? Well, according to the studies, this has been very well documented. They say the following: research shows when a child grows up in a father absent home, he or she is 4 times more likely to live in poverty, more likely to suffer emotional and behavioral problems. Children of single mothers show higher levels of aggressive behavior than children born to married mothers. And number 4 is very major because it kind of goes hand in hand with this topic, and that is more likely to go to prison. 1 in 5 prison inmates had a father in prison. And then at number 5, which is very, very, very important for this topic, more likely to commit crime. Study of juvenile offenders indicate that family structure significantly predicts delinquency. Number 8, we have more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. And then at number 10, we have 2 times more likely to drop out of high school. Now, obviously, not every single teen who comes from this type of background.
You know, and we see these studies, right? And we still have people who get offended when people say, like, you need fathers in the household. You need a mother and a father. They're like, oh no, like the woman can do all this. Like, you're misogynistic. Like I man, it's so many layers to this issue, and right, the media does not promote staying in the home either, right? You want to get as many women as possible, according to, you know what I'm saying, the rap music, the streams, right? So man, it's kind of depressing to you know, kind of think through it and break it down, but we just gonna continue watching.
Ends up committing brazen crimes or acts belligerent or shows a lack of self-control in spaces occupied by others, right? And the question is, why is that? Well, there's a couple angles to this. First of all, a big one that's not emphasized is personality. You can come from the worst conditions and have every single obstacle against you known to mankind. If you're not naturally inclined to be this type of person, you're not going to put on a mask and start robbing old folks, right? And on the other hand, you can come from a household of love, 2 loving parents. You know, your name could be Clarence. And if you find the idea of being a menace to society appealing, then that's the path you're going to go down. And then we, of course, have a mix of this along with environmental influences, which we'll touch on later. Aside from that, another aspect of this is, back in the day, there used to be this thing called a rite of passage, something you did that marks the transitional phase of your life into adulthood. And this rite of passage added a layer of accountability to them as people, and it set a precedent that said, you're now responsible for your own life, so act accordingly. Nowadays, we don't have any of that. Culturally, things are less structured. I mean, this young new generation doesn't really even know how to follow authority. Just take a look at what's happening with teachers and their students now.
Disrespect from students. In the 3 years that I've been teaching, I've been cussed at countless times. I've been called fat. I've been called a B word.
A lot of the young people from this generation think that following basic instructions like sit down or put your phone down is a sign of disrespect. A lot of the youth who adopt this Hawaiian mindset actually come from loving households. They didn't have to worry about missing meals or going to sleep without a blanket, only, you know, showering with cold water, sleeping on the floor, eating rice and beans, you feel me? A lot of them have been spoiled to the point where consistency in their household or outside suddenly turns into a prison, which is why they're often looking for excitement in the outside world. And that excitement leads them down a road where they start acting out in ways that not only put themselves in danger, but the rest of us that want nothing to do with any of this. And a lot of the young boys who fall into this category, right, of kind of having this Hawaiian mindset, a lot of them just have no identity. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want in life. They don't know where they're actually going. And it doesn't help that they don't have any real life positive and tangible influences around them as a symbol for what they can become.
Right, and on top of that, your brain isn't developed until, you know, around 25 years old. So they're not even a lot of young guys are not even gonna think through, you know, do I really want to be on the block all day with a bunch of other men? Is all I want to live for, You know what I'm saying? Robbing this dude, taking these iPhones from the store and flipping them, and you know, continuing to steal, and staying on the block, you know, every single day, and smoking weed all day. Like it like I said, bro, is so many layers to the issue, bro. So many layers to the issue. That's why I said, man, I feel like it can only truly be eradicated if we make gangster culture lame, bro. If you shame this type of behavior, bro, if you make this corny, right, then it will go away.
Top of that, as soon as they head over to Instagram, their algorithm is pushing all this low life behavior content in front of them.
And it already is corny to me. It's already lame to me. I'm talking about like on a grand scale. You make it so that the young black kid is not influenced or takes no inspiration, you know, from you know, this type of nonsense, man. Let's keep watching.
People acting out in public and fighting, or things like videos of people who look just like them, white, black, purple, not color specific, terrorizing innocent people by being belligerent, ruthless, and a menace to society. And that validates their way of living, and it plans to see that then normalizes this way of living in their mind. When you're spending more time with a screen that's made to program your mind in a negative way than with real people, is it really a surprise that so many of these young kids are turning out this way? I don't really think so. And speaking of the identity thing, because I think this is worth hitting on a little more, I think this is the core of the issue actually. Notice how a lot of the, you know, in this case, the YNs who fall in this category, right, they tend to roll in packs. Now, why is it that people who exude this, you know, I'm a savage mindset don't have the confidence to walk in the streets by themselves? You're supposedly this tough guy who likes to prey on a weak, and you'll beat up anybody who tests you, and you love to cause ruckus in the streets, but you don't have enough cojones to go outside by yourself. Let me tell you why that is. It's because a lot of these young men don't have an identity. They find their sense of security in the group because they don't have a sense of themselves. And the only time they can be themselves is when they're around a pack of 13 other YNs who think just like them. That's how they feel safe being them. They don't have any home training. They don't know what it means to conduct themselves in a public setting and be one with their environment. They're loud, they're aggressive, and they're repelling, honestly. So a lot of this stems from not knowing who.
Some are naturally that way, but and I'm sorry I hit the mic, but I mean, I already spoke on it, right? Like some come from a loving family and loving household and are just trying to be something that they're not, right?
They are a lack of identity, and the natural response to that, rebellion, validated by the approval of the group. So their way of belonging is by being posted up with others who they feel have the same mission as them. The only oxymoron is the mission is obviously dysfunctional and it adds no value to society at all. And the thing is, there's a reason why a lot of these young men are so quick to crash out, catching felonies through stealing, robbing, and in some cases even taking a life. We've seen that in hip-hop, right? To them, catching a charge or crashing out, that's not a loss to them because they never felt like they even had a real place in society to begin with. If you're someone who, let's say you're in this demographic of people who could fall into this, the thing that's kind of gonna sway you from moving, you know, all crazy and crashing out and being a YN, right? It's seeing the other paths that are available for you to walk in. Let's say you have a hobby you're passionate about. Maybe you like to sing, rap, write music, paint, health and fitness. You know, maybe you want to be the next Kai Cenat. Actually, don't try to be the next anybody. Just be you, right? Or you're in trading school, medical school, or you just graduated high school and you have plans to do something with your life. It's the options that are available for you that's going to make you not want to throw your life away by adopting the YN mindset and crashing out. The reality is there's a lot of young people these days who've given up. A lot of these are young men, sadly. And a lot of them, they lock themselves in the basement. They don't participate in life. They get hooked on drugs, alcohol, pornography. They play too much video games, whatever. They hate the world. They hate themselves. They hate women especially, and they're not willing to do anything to change their situation. And yes, there's something to be said about why a lot of those, you know, young men are in those particular situations, but obviously crashing out ain't really gonna solve anything. That's what we're talking about here.
Like I said, and hold on, y'all, let me change the camera. All right, we back. Like I said, and I agree with him. Like, we do need to see more positive examples, and I spoke on it myself. But I think it's ultimately like, no matter how many positive examples we see, like if we also are still idolizing the negative examples, then the issue won't be solved. Like, you need to shame the type of culture. Yeah.
Right? And then what happens a lot of times in a situation like that is
Like
they
shame
get
that.
involved in the wrong crowd, and then a bunch of people with
Clown
no
that.
identity come together and cause a bunch of chaos that we have to deal with in our communities. So it's on us to clean it up, because when one of these YNs robs an 80-year-old lady and she slips and hits her head and dies, that's unnecessary pain and suffering the people in our communities have to deal with. Energetically and spiritually, there's something that happens to you as a human being when other humans around you are grieving. That energy gets transferred to the rest of the community, and it lowers the frequency of the environment around you. I'm talking people walk around more anxious that it could happen to one of their loved ones or them. And I'm talking about, let's say, one of these YNs, doing something that leads to someone in a particular community dying, and then that kind of feeds into the community. That's what I'm talking about, right? People start walking around tense, guarded, doubting that their fellow humans have some kind of agenda when all they're doing is being polite or helpful, and that becomes the new normal. That's how distrust in society among people is created. And not to make this about money, right? But it does cost the government when tragedies happen. And a few examples of that, well, number one, emergency medical care for victims of violence. That is funded by the taxpayers, us. So it by default becomes a public burden. Number two, the police actually has to investigate the crimes, which that's an expense. And something that's kind of connected to this, which is, the average cost, and that's number three, the average cost of housing a juvenile in a detention center in the United States is over $200,000 a year. Did you know that? I didn't really know that. That's news to me, right? So when that 17-year-old young boy decides to catch a felony charge by popping somebody, right, or like doing something crazy, that's the price we got to pay for what he did. And also, number four, okay, let's not forget things like increasing cost of insurance in high crime neighborhoods. And number five, and also this is a big one, businesses taking their companies elsewhere and leaving the areas where, these, in this case, these YNs are terrorizing, right? And obviously it ain't just YNs, doing all this crazy stuff. That's what we're focusing on in this video, obviously, okay? So you get it. And then something that's connected to number five, and I'm sure some of y'all have heard about this, right? Which is, haven't y'all heard what's happening to so many like specifically like black communities in America, whether it's Walmart, Target, or any other major chain that fuels the economy of said neighborhood? A lot of them are leaving these black neighborhoods, and they're leaving a lot of these neighborhoods because a lot of people are stealing, and they're
right.
losing so much.
It's crazy. It says Chicago is literally like a Aldi that closed down like a couple years ago. It's like one of the main grocery stores in the neighborhood near mine. That was getting robbed too much, so they just said, yeah, we out. So they go to all the affordable groceries, you know what I'm saying, because we can't get it together. And you know what else is the thing, like, we see like black person did this, black person did that every single day on the news. The powers that be aren't going to do anything to help solve the issue. Or like the news, like the government, they want division. You know what I'm saying? And he talked about like how they get how we pay taxes, towards like institutions like the police and the government, because of the violence that young black dudes commit, or the crimes that they commit. So they're incentivized to not do any, like the powers that be are incentivized to not do anything to help solve it. And that's why it's also very unfortunate, right? But we got three minutes left, man. Let's wrap this video up. Yeah,
money to the point where it's not even profitable for them to actually stay in these neighborhoods, right? And it's a shame that regular folks who aren't a part of all this craziness and all this chaos have to deal with this, and they don't have the funds to move, so they get affected, right? So it's really unfortunate how this is particularly affecting black neighborhoods all over America. A very small minority of our melanated brothers and sisters are, they're just honestly fucking it up for so many people, man. Like, I don't know what other way to put it. And obviously, like, most people aren't on this. Like, it's a very, very small minority of people like who are doing this, right? And I know it might feel like this conversation has taken a little bit of a turn, but I think all this is connected, and it goes deeper than just a couple YNs. I'll be honest with y'all too, like, I don't know if this is gonna get better. Like, are things actually gonna get better? Because to me, it feels like the younger generation is getting more belligerent as the years go by. It feels like social media has done a number on their mind, and the algorithms are validating this messed up way of thinking and operating. And there's so many forms of media that are just feeding into the dysfunction as well. If you ask me, I think what we need more of is strong parents, leadership, guidance, structure, you name it. I think that's the medicine to a lot of the issues we've discussed in this video. However, the sad part is someone can grow up having all these things and more, but end up like this. We've seen it in so many different examples. A good example is T.I.'s son, King Harris. He's probably the best example of someone who had every advantage in the book, but still ended up trying to appear as a thug, a gangster, you know, someone who's about
a trust fund baby thug. Like, man, we gotta change our culture badly, bro. We gotta promote something else, man, desperately, bro. Oh, that's like the corniest thing I've ever seen, bro. A trust fund baby thug who came from millions, who grew up in a mansion. Like, oh my gosh, bro.
So there's no guarantees that someone ends up the right way. I know so many parents who've actually done their best, but their kids ended up catching.
Like, who are you fooling, bro? Who are you? Like, you're not hard. You're not tough. You didn't come from nothing. Like, you know, you didn't earn any stripes. Like, oh man.
Felonies, murder charges. I mean, I know so many parents personally who they did actually do their best, but their kids still ended up catching felonies, murder charges, you name it. I guess in the end, all you can do is just do your best as a parent and hope for the best. Overall, it's also a community thing, if you ask me. We as people, we have to make sure that our respective communities don't get destroyed by this type of behavior. We all got to make sure that we try to hold each other accountable as much as possible, and we actually protect our communities. That's one of the most important things that I think that we as people, we can do. Anyway, if you made it this far, drop a little like on this video for the algorithm. If you're new here, my name is Blackie Speaks, digital handshake, okay? Nice to meet you, and subscribe if you want.
Shout outs to Blackie Speaks, man. It's a great video. Yeah, this is a really good video, man. I you know, at the end of the day, man, you know, you can it seems like this issue has a lot of it's a very multi-layered issue, but no, you I mean, if you're a black dude, bro, just do your part by not participating in this, not promoting this type of stuff. You know, and that's pretty much it, bro. Hope y'all enjoy it, bro. As always, man, it's your boy TwoCentz, TCZ. Say it slow, we out.